Just going to give it a few minutes as everybody is joining the session today. Before we make a start, I can see you all dropping in, just so you can get your microphones and whatnot sorted. While you are all entering the meeting today, I will just highlight if you have any questions throughout this session, please do use the Q&A feature in the chat. So just go across the chat, pop a question in there. We'll be able to answer that as I'm speaking. We'll answer it in the chat for you. What we'll also do is at the end, we'll open up for any questions if anyone wants to come off of their microphone. Right at the end of today's session, we'll give you some time there if you've got any questions or thoughts that you want to share. And it doesn't just have to be related to the session today, it can be any questions you have around DSPT in general. So if anything comes to you throughout, think about that. Please do ask that at the end or in the chat as the session is going on today. So what we'll do is we'll make a start. So this session that I've put together is looking at the difference between DSPT and Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. And the reason for this is I quite often get asked the question of, well, I have Cyber Essentials or I'm thinking of getting Cyber Essentials. Why should I do DSPT or vice versa? There's a bit of confusion around and what those differences, what they each mean. We're going to take a deep dive into those today, really look and explore those, and then go on to, obviously, from a practical standpoint on DSPT, how you can go through that, get registered, and complete that. Now, the deadline, obviously, for republishing did pass on the 30th of June, but there is still a period that you can still republish your DSPT or publish your DSPT. So please don't just think, well, that's me done, can't do it now. You absolutely can. There is still time to do that. And we are here to offer that support. So I'll leave some contact information at the end. If anyone has any additional support needs that they would like, and I can get you in a one-to-one session and we can get you sorted with DSPT. So let's start by looking at the differences. So very quickly, the DSPT is a free tool and it covers all aspects of information governance and social care, whereas the Cyber Essentials Plus, it focuses really on the technical side of things. And we'll look at what that means in a bit more detail as we go through. So just really quickly starting, if I pull up the key competencies of Cyber Essentials. So the Cyber Essentials certification, as you can see, recommended by the National Cybersecurity Centre as a minimum standard for cybersecurity in an organisation. It assesses against these 5 core principles, and what they are looking at things like secure configuration. So really how you're setting up computers and technology within your organization securely to try to minimize as much as possible any cyber related criminal activity that could find its way in. It also looks at user access control. So any of your users, workers, staff, employees, whoever they are, who has access to your systems, your services from a technological standpoint, is looking at putting controls in place on those to ensure that levels of access to systems are appropriate. We don't want people just being able to access systems they shouldn't be accessing, or if they've left roles, being able to access systems or outdated systems. So it really does a deep dive into that area. It then moves into malware protection. And if you're familiar with what malware is, that's malicious software. So cyber criminals, they create this software, they try and get it onto your systems. Again, it's a very broad topic. There's many different areas in which malware covers and different forms in which it takes. But the sole purpose is to try and infect a system to try to steal data, information, gain access to systems, and it causes harm. So lots of different ways that happens, and this looks at how you can use malware protection. Also, security updates. So again, another important one. It goes through in detail how to prevent cyber criminals from using vulnerabilities they could find in your software to try and get into your systems as well. You can maintain that by doing updates, regulating updates, keeping all your systems updated. And then finally, there's a lot of emphasis on firewalls, and a firewall is basically creating a filter. So it's almost like if you imagine a wall that blocks a fire, creates a security filter between your internet, between the internet and your network. So all the bad stuff that's on the internet, the most simplistic way to describe it. There's lots of bad stuff out there on the internet. There's lots of cybercrime, and a firewall is in place to prevent that getting through onto your network. So it goes through in a lot of detail on that. So as you can see from Cyber Essentials, the key emphasis here is on technology and from a cyber standpoint on your systems. Now, DSPT focuses on, and we're looking at this from a social care perspective. Again, DSPT takes many different forms. We'll look at that as we go through today. But from a social care standpoint, it looks at four key areas, which is staffing and roles. So looking at staff training, training appropriate to roles, ensuring that we have everything recorded, access to systems, that kind of thing. So it looks at a lot of different areas. Policies and procedures. So this is where DSPT differs from Cyber Essentials quite dramatically in that DSPT will look at ensuring you have policies in place to ensure your data is protected. So we know there are legal frameworks, and if you've been on any of my previous sessions in the past where I've gone through sessions on the information asset registers, role of record of processing activities, data protection impact assessments, and so on, we know they are documents which we must have, and also things like registering for the ICO. They're legal requirements as a social care provider, and we must have certain documents in place. And if you haven't been on those sessions and you're starting to hear this for the first time, or you might not have those, don't worry, we have those sessions which we've recorded, and we can get those out to you. You can also see them on the Digital Care Hub website, or you can reach out to me and I can offer my one-to-one support with you to provide you that support there as well. But it looks at ensuring you have those policies, that paperwork in place to comply with data protection regulation. It also looks at data security, so how you're implementing different measures to protect personal data. Personal data, as I say, it has laws attached to it, which we must comply with. It's not just, oh, we got personal data, we'll try and protect it as best possible. No, there are laws which we must comply with to protect that data. And if we follow them appropriately and correctly, that data will be safe. Because if personal data is leaked, it could cause huge implications for your organization, for yourself, for your staff, for your reputation. So we need to keep that safe and also to protect those in our care. That is absolutely essential. And the DSPT ensures that you have those measures in place, and it gives you that reassurance that if you followed this, each step, and we'll look at those in a moment, what that looks like, how you can have those in place. And then finally, IT systems and devices. So this is where there is a crossover between Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, in that IT systems and devices in the Data Security Protection Toolkit looks at protecting your systems, your devices from cyber attacks, from malicious attacks, from systems going down or system failures. It looks into detail of how we can protect those from a cyber aspect. And that's where we see that crossover. But DSPT has these other key areas in place. And if we dive a bit deeper into this, Digital Care have put together a good infographic here that just highlights some of those core differences, which we're going to look at now in a bit more detail. So let's start exploring those key differences. So the first one on that list is that DSPT covers all aspects of information governance. So it's not just cyber and systems. It includes paper records, systems, verbal disclosures of information, digital systems, just like Cyber Essentials, cyber security, and the duty to share information to support someone's care. So as I say, DSPT, it will cover off all areas of information governance. Whereas Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, they will cover cybersecurity and digitally held or transferred data only. So it does not cover paper records or information shared verbally. And that's what you will get by completing DSPT. You'll cover off all of those aspects. Secondly, DSPT was designed specifically for adult social care providers in England. Now, when you go across to the toolkit, you can filter to your environment, what you are service you're providing. In the case of, as I say, social care, you can filter it to social care, and you will see DSPT for as a social care provider in the social care setting, and then the questions we tailored relevant to that environment. So, as a social care provider, you will get all the questions which ensure full governance for your organization. And again, by completing that, it covers all areas, and you have that reassurance that you are following those legal frameworks, that you're protecting yourself as best as possible, and you're able to showcase that to others that you are a cyber safe, a digitally safe, and a just in general data safe organization, and you are complying with regulation appropriately. Now, Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, it was designed for all businesses. So it wasn't specifically tailored to one environment. It's for everybody, not tailored to social care. So just looking a bit more into DSPT and some of those differences. So as I said before, DSPT will go through some areas that aren't you won't see within Cyber Essentials. And they're areas such as following policy, which is, for instance, getting you signed up to ICO, ensuring you are registered. As part of the DSPT, one of the questions in there will highlight that you must register for the ICO. Obviously, they are the ones that regulate these legal frameworks on personal data. And if we aren't registered with the ICO, that in itself is a legal failing. That is a requirement. We must do that. And it'll take you through how to do that. As I mentioned a moment ago, it goes through a very important required documentation that you must have in place to demonstrate that you are protecting personal data and processing data correctly. And those take the form of the information asset registers and the record of processing activities. Those are two documents which I have done a session previously with the Digital Care Hub, and they are found on our website. And I can see there is a conversation around previous sessions. So if I direct you to the chat, you'll be able to see that in there now, the conversation where that information is. Now, as I say, we do contain all those past sessions, but if you do need that one-to-one support, I can offer that. And also on the Data Security Protection Toolkit itself, if you go through each individual question, you will find all the relevant information, including templates and guides on how to complete these documents. DSPT also ensures that you have privacy notice in place. You've completed data protection impact assessments, so you understand the risks of holding data or certain data. You understand how to mitigate those risks, and you're able to demonstrate that. And it also goes through the subject of record retention, which is a topic which is often discussed, but it goes through what that looks like, how long to retain records for, it gives some guidance there. Also, how you're destroying records, whether it's done through a third party or by yourselves. But these are the areas where you're going to see those differences from the Cyber Essentials. And that takes us to data security as well. As I said, DSPT focuses on all aspects of information governance. So it will take you through paper record safety, so not just digital systems. It will also look at physical building controls that you have in place. So in your physical office or premise, how are you protecting that area? How are you protecting personal data within that environment? It'll also go through how to report and contain breaches. So it'll ensure that you have a plan in place. And again, you're able to demonstrate that, and you will know what to do if there is a breach. Now, on that subject, with linking to the ICO, it is a requirement that certain breaches are reported to the ICO. Now, what breaches need to be applied? There is a tool you can work through on the ICO website. But very briefly, basically, if you believe personal data, which could impact the rights and freedoms of an individual, has been accessed or could have been accessed or breached, then that is something that does need to be reported. And you have a 72-hour window in which to do that. And the ICO recommends a step-by-step approach of how to tackle that, such as doing some groundwork in identifying the issue, trying to contain the issue, and then obviously building a report and reporting that. They've also offer a support line on there as well, so very useful. And this ties in with business continuity planning, which is again something the DSPT expects, that you have a business continuity plan in place and that you're testing that. Now, what is a business continuity plan? Again, we've bought sessions in the past around business continuity planning, but very quickly, basically, it's in the wording. It's ensuring that if your data has been impacted in whatever way, you're able to continue business as usual. And that can take many different forms, and that's down to you to identify that. Whether it be that your systems have gone down, you've had a cyber attack, which has meant you can't access your systems. Your network's had an attack. Maybe you've had a natural disaster, or the building, then maybe there's been a fire or a break-in, or you've lost a system, or you've had something stolen. Anything which could stop you accessing your systems or data. A business continuity plan will be a plan in place should one of those situations happen. That means you can access data and you know how to do that. And it can be as simple as you've created backups, so identical copies of your data, and you're holding those on different systems or in different areas, and you're able to just to go onto a different system and access that data. But it will take you through that. And again, in the DSPT, the full guidance on how to complete that is in place, so you can follow that. And also, there is an emphasis and certain questions in there around testing business continuity planning as well. So again, you can have the best business continuity plan in the world, but if you're not testing it, it's probably not that great, because you need to know what to happen in those situations. And I've spoken to quite a few providers at this point and organizations who have business continuity planning in place, but when we actually go to simulate testing, we found that they've really struggled in certain areas when they're trying to access their data, because they've not actually tested it. They haven't familiarized themselves, or formatting of certain files hasn't been correct, or certain systems won't allow it. So again, very important you are testing these plans. And DSPT, it ensures you have the policies in place, and it ensures you're testing those those policies and plans, whatever they are, that they're ensuring you have in place. And again, that's all areas of information governance. It also looks at identifying data security incidents. So if you've had any security incidents or data breaches or data incidents, again, security and data incidents or breaches, looks at all of them, and it asks you to identify within the last 12 months if you've had them, and then reporting on measures you took to mitigate those, whether managers were informed. And so again, there's a deep dive into looking at your ability to handle data breaches and how you did handle them. So again, it's bringing it to the forefront of your minds that you are able to test these plans, and you know exactly what to do should any of the data be impacted from whatever cause. Now there is we're looking at pricing. So DSPT is free. It's a free tool that is offered to you, and it also has a national, regional, and local support program with it, and it's led by care sector experts. You also are able to get free help. I am able to offer that support to you. We have funding in place to offer that free support. We have teams of experts who will be able to support with the completion of DSPT. So any questions you have, you can reach out to us. Now, Cyber Essentials Plus, there is a pricing model there. Starting from around £320 plus VAT, going up to about £600 plus VAT. That does depend on the size of your organization. When you're looking at Cyber Essentials Plus, it's priced on size and complexity of your organization network. Now, what's the difference between Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus? Well, Cyber Essentials is a self-assessment tool where you do the self-assessment yourself. So much like DSPT, DSPT is a self-assessment tool. You go through, you do the assessment yourself, you submit the information, you have it in place. Cyber Essentials Plus, you will have an assessor who will come in and assess you following certain principles, they'll conduct that assessment. And so you have that self-assessment in Cyber Essentials, and then Cyber Essentials Plus, it's a assessor who does this. So that's the difference between those two. Now, DSPT, a very important point to notify you on here is that it is a it is a requirement to access NHS contracts, NHS patient system, NHS mail. Without DSPT, you absolutely cannot have access to certain systems, NHS contracts. It is also referred in CQC single assessment, and CQC is starting to look more for DSPT to be in place and measuring against certain principles there. And also, it is a success measure. It's listed as a success measure on safe practice in the government's guidance of what good looks like. So you're starting to see more referencing, more expectation on DSPT, but also there are requirements to have it should you need to access NHS contracts. That's a very important point to note. There, I've had providers approach me who want things like NHS Mail or certain NHS contracted systems. They cannot have it unless they have DSPT in place. It's an absolute requirement. Whereas with Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, if you have that, it is not required in local NHS contracts or reference. So with that, you would need DSPT. And then some additional points of difference before I move into the toolkit itself. Just to highlight, there is an insurance piece here. So DSPT does not include cyber liability insurance, but you can use DSPT as evidence in an insurance claim. Whereas Cyber Essentials, it does include up to £25,000 cyber liability cover for organisations with full Cyber Essentials certification and a turnover under £2 million. Also excludes losses from cyber fraud or electronically stolen funds. And DSPT is based on the National Guardian's 10 security standards. And the DSPT aligns with the NHS requirements and supports access to shared patient information systems. Cyber Essentials is based on UK governance minimum baseline standards for cybersecurity, so it's based on that minimum standpoint. It does not enable access, as I said before, to NHS patient information systems, so an important differentiation that I need to notify you on there. And also, both of them are annual self-assessments. So again, a key point here is that you must complete these each year. So it's not just a one and done thing. The whole point in DSPT is that, and Cyber Essentials is that you are using them almost like a living document. So you are regularly auditing and checking your processes, your policies, ensuring they are all in place, and they must be completed on time to be valid and to be used. So again, key point to notify there. So just very quick summary on DSPT. As we've highlighted, it is a free tool. It goes through all areas such as policies, training, governance, and tech, and it's tailored to social care. It also looks at digital, cyber, paper, and verbal. So it covers all those areas, not just cyber, as you would get in Cyber Essentials. And again, it is required for NHS shared patient information systems. So those are the key differences that I wanted to explore between the two. What we'll do now is we'll go across to the DSPT just to look at some of those points that I've mentioned previously in this session today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up DSPT. So bear with me 1 second and we'll get that pulled up. So you should see we got the DSPT. I'm just going to very quick log in. This is an email which is shared anyway, so there's no problem at all. Now, as I said, with DSPT, I'm just going to go into the toolkit that you would see if it's the first time completing DSPT. And what I will showcase here, yes, I did see your comment there. Yeah, it did have a typo. It was. I will highlight this just so it is on record. Cyber Essentials Insurance on my slide there, which will be amended. I put 2 million. It is a turnover at less than 20 million. So just to highlight there, if you're achieving a turnover of less than 20 million, that's when the cyber insurance comes in place, not 2 million. So yeah, absolutely right. Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even notice the typo as I was going through. So I will amend that. And that's just to put that on record. So if we go through to the toolkit, I do have a demo test site, so mine looks slightly different. But as I said, you can filter your DSPT to the environment you're in. So if I go to admin, I'm just going to go to organization profile. And if I go down, you have sector information, and you can change this to tailor the toolkit to the area that your organization fits. And then from there, you will have your questions tailored to that environment. So I will select social care for this one. I'm just going to save this and then make sure once you've saved it, you've submitted your changes. And then I'll go across to the assessment itself. Now, as I say, this is from a standpoint of completing DSPT for the first time. If you're going to republish your DSPT, it will look slightly different. You will have more mandatory questions in there that you need to complete. But as we go through, in order to publish, you do need to complete all the mandatory questions. But what I say is do go through, complete everything. It shows that you have that excellence in place. And also, if you only complete the mandatory, you do need to provide a summary of how you aim to complete the full toolkit anyway. So that is something which you should be working towards. Now, as I say, DSPT is categorized into these 4 areas under the social care view. So we've got staffing and roles, we have policies and procedures, we have data security, and we have IT systems and devices. And under each subheading, we have all of the questions which are then required to be completed. So starting in policies and starting in staffing and roles, as I say, this looks at the emphasis around staff training, employment contracts, induction processes, ensuring that we have that data protection, cybersecurity awareness within our workforce. Again, really important. And if we go through each question, it will give you a description of exactly what is required, and then they have links included within here, which will take you through to guides and more information on what each of these mean. So if you're really stuck, you can go through, complete these. One thing I will say is there is in some of these questions, you will see 2 boxes. So you'll see a box like this. You'll see another with comments. To highlight, don't put your evidence in comments. Comments are optional. That's for you to take notes if you need to put them in there. The areas you need to submit evidence, they will be highlighted within the toolkit. So for instance, on this first question, I would need to put my evidence in this first box, not in the comments. On other questions, it will be a case of ticking. There'll be a tick box you'll see, and you would tick the box. And on others, it will request you to upload a document by clicking on a secure link. So as you can see, this one I would click I would tick the box. I don't need to put any comments, and just by ticking that box and saving, that will then complete that question. Now, that's not to say that you just go through as a self-assessment tool, tick everything, claim you've completed everything, and submit it. As I said, DSPT is to ensure you have everything in place should you have any inspections or any auditing done. And again, this is regulated. There's a lot of things in here that require compliance. So if you tick these boxes, you're probably not going to fool an inspector or anyone coming to doing checks, because you will then need to demonstrate that you have those certain things in place that you've said you have in place. So again, very important that you're working through this appropriately. And you are completing these only if you have these in place, not just ticking through so you can say I've got the certificate, because you will be caught out on that. So as I say, if you go through, we've got policies and procedures. So in here, as I say, it goes through those, I mentioned information asset registers, record of processing activities. This question here goes through having that in place. And if you're really stuck, we have included templates in here. And just as I said before, how you would showcase this evidence is you would then upload your documents through this secure link and then save. You don't put the information in the comments box. And once you've completed your DSPT, right down at the bottom, you will then publish your toolkit. And you do still have some time right now, so don't panic. I know the deadline was officially on the 30th. There is still some time to complete this and to republish, so absolutely go ahead. If you haven't signed up at all, very simple. All you need to do is go online, do a quick search, DSPT register or Data Security Protection Toolkit, how to register. It will take you through to the DSPT website, and it will go through to ask you a few pieces of key information before you register. It will need an email address and it will need an ODS code. Now, you may be sat there thinking, I have no idea what my ODS code is. Don't panic. There is a link here which will take you through to the ODS search, and you can just search your organization in here, or your postcode, or some piece of information for your organization. Just hit search and it will give you your ODS code. So once you've got those, you'll be able to then continue through, get registered, and then be able to complete that toolkit and work your way through. And provided you have all of these, it's again, I come across organizations who have everything already in place, and it is simply a case of they just go through, upload the documents that are required, tick the boxes that are required, work their way through, and then complete it, and they can get it done pretty quickly. You'll then get a certificate. You can print that certificate off, file that, or put it up. And again, that demonstrates that you have those key compliance pieces around all information governance. Your systems are secure and protected. And if you've completed everything in the DSPT, again, you can demonstrate that as a gold standard that you've completed. Now, as I said, DSPT does look different depending on whether you're publishing for the first time or republishing. So that was from a view of publishing for the first time. If I go through into a toolkit I have that showcases what it looks like if you're republishing, so you've already done it in the past. If you log back in, you'll see there are more mandatory questions that you must complete in order to republish. But I say it is an expectation that you're working through and completing the whole toolkit anyway. And as I say, if you do need support with that, we're here. We have that free support which we can offer to you, and we'll be able to get you into a one-to-one or arrange a call should you need that. Now, for some further support, do go to the Digital Care Hub website. We have all of the future events on there around DSPT. We've also got previous events on there, previous webinars, recordings, and support sites. And also, I'm providing this from a local team that I work with, which is the Sussex Digital team. So you can go across to our website. We provide other webinars on lots of different areas around tech as well. So you can go there and also get support and free support from ourselves. And my email is on the screen. So if you're really stuck, just note down my email. It's very useful to take that down, and I'll say this for any area of tech that you have any queries on, and I'll see how I can help you. Now, we are going to launch a quick poll, so if you can stay around for a few minutes, that'll be fantastic. It'll pop up on your screen in a moment. Just some very quick questions. If you can complete that, it'll be very beneficial to us and how we can get this support out to you. And while that's happening, we'll open up for any questions that anyone has. We'll try our best to answer those questions. If you don't want to come off microphone, pop the question into the chat, or use the raise your hand feature if you do want to come off microphone to ask those questions. And as I say, you'll see that poll has popped up on the screen now. So if you can start filling that out, I'd be very grateful. Really doesn't take long. If you're looking at the screen, you can't see anything's popped up. Just look at where you've got Zoom open on your at the bottom of your screen, or on your tabs. You might have seen a second window open, and you'll see that pop up there. So those are the key differences, as I say, between Cyber Essentials and DSPT. So I hope that has helped or given some clarification there. Hopefully see you on a future session. I will wait around for a few minutes in case we do have any questions. Nada, is there anything else that you would like to add that I might have missed off?
I don't think there's anything you missed, Sam. Thank you very much for another very insightful session today.
There was a question in the Q&A that I answered, and it was what was the deadline in relation to and whether the DSPT could be completed any time of the year. I said yes, it can be completed any time of the year. And just for everyone to know, the 30th of June deadline it's in relation to that year of the DSPT. So because you have to republish every year, you have until the 30th of June to republish your DSPT. So the one just gone, the deadline is for the year 24-25, and then the next one will be for the year 25-26. Although I have just said in that answer that you can still republish for the year 24-25 now, because we have a little bit of time between DSPT changeover from 24-25 to 25-26. So the DSPT team have not released the new DSPT yet. Um, so there is a little bit of time now, and we don't know exact date when they change it, but if you've not republished it, you can still do it.
Just got a question from Jeanette. Jeanette, if you can you drop me an email, and I will be able to help you with that. I've got my email on the screen, so if you just note down that email, just send me an email. Just summarize exactly the situation like you have there, and then that will just rejig my memory, and I'll be able to help with that one.
We have another question in the Q&A, which says, how do you locate the certificate once the SPT has been completed?
Yeah, there is a short video that we've got on the gosh, I need to find out where we've put that. There is a small video on the Digital Care Hub's website, but also on your YouTube, which is on YouTube, which shows you exactly how to get hold of that. Bear with me, I've also got a link. Just going to quickly pull it up, so bear with me a second. I will just put this into the chat for you now. There you go. So I'm just putting some guidance. There is a video as well which accompanies this, but this is basically a full guide on how you can actually access that assessment once you've published. I've sent that to the hosts and panelists. I'll send that to everybody. There you go. So that link is the guidance on the Digital Care Hub website, which takes you through exactly how to get hold of your website, of your certificate on there.
Just catching up on other questions. So, we have in the chat, is Cyber Essentials Plus a requirement for standards exceeded? Yes, it is. You need that to reach standards exceeded, and you need standards met and also Cyber Essentials Plus.
Yeah.
And then another one is Cyber Essentials recommended for standards met or approaching standards.
Is it recommended for approaching standards met or approaching standards? In the case of how we just answered the question, you don't have to, but if you're looking to get standards exceeded, then yes. Obviously, we would always recommend that you have everything in place to demonstrate you have the absolute maximum
Yes. Yeah.
cyber security there. So I'd always recommend that the more measures you have in place, the more certification that you can use to demonstrate that, you will have covered off more areas. Cyber Essentials does do a very deep dive into areas like firewalls and system access and system controls, which again is very appropriate for, I would say, any organization that uses digital systems. That is something that I would always recommend to look at.
Perfect. TJ also asked about the certificate. I think the links that Sam put in the chat should be helpful. You
Yeah,
should
it
be
takes
able,
you
yeah.
yeah, it takes you across to a very quick guide. Provided that you've published your DSPT, you'll be able to access that. If you haven't, you obviously won't be able to get hold of the certificate. If you've published in the past, you can get previous publication certificate, but if it's the first time, you obviously do need to work through and publish that before you can gain access. As I say, I would always recommend that you have Cyber Essentials in place. Cyber Essentials Plus, obviously you have someone come in to assess what you've done. So that's the difference. Cyber Essentials is a self-assessment, whereas Cyber Essentials Plus, you have an assessor come and they will check that you have everything in place to run that assessment. AI adoption, again, there's a wide topic on how it's being used, the ethical use around AI. I've done previous sessions on AI. In terms of looking at system access and how people are using systems, I would say Cyber Essentials is something that is good to have in place. There are lots, and it is a very saturated market, AI and AI adoption. So I would also always say be very careful with how you're using AI. I would never recommend that you're inputting personal data because the same data protection laws apply to AI with regard to everything else. And if you don't know how that data is being used, you don't know which companies are storing that information, if they're international companies, again, you could be breaching certain data protection legislation. Um, so you need to use that appropriately. I would only ever recommend getting a paid for account with a private account on it and using it for templates and not inputting personal data. If it's Copilot that's contained within your private business account and you have it as an add-on, that's different because it's linked directly into Microsoft Office. And so it's your private Microsoft Office account. And that data isn't used to increase the memory. But going on to open platforms like Copilot itself or open free ChatGPT, I wouldn't recommend going on that and inputting personal data. And again, you can cover off a lot of areas around system control and starting to just get that into the forefront of your mind and staffing by completing Cyber Essentials.
Just to also add, we have just run a pilot project on health checks of your DSPT in the southwest of England, and we're looking at potentially rolling this to other areas of the UK in the coming months. So this is something that we would be supporting providers with. So just checking, basically like a DSPT check, but looking at other areas, not just each DSPT question, but wider areas on data security and other areas that the DSPT covers. So if you stay in touch with us, this is something that we're looking at rolling out in
Yeah.
the whole country in the coming months to support providers. Okay.
And okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay, I think we're done, Sam.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you everybody for coming along today. Really appreciate all of the questions. And as I say, if you do have any additional questions and you want that extra support, drop me an email. I'll be able to come and support, whether that be in a call or as a one-to-one video call or over email.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.